Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this Friday morning going into another long weekend. We've had a lot of these, but just be aware of that. Know that we're closed on Monday. So just, accordingly move along. But as we look back to yesterday, I got to tell you something. The markets just continue to be something that I marvel at the moves that we've got. Hopefully you understand. Anybody who's new to the market, it probably just sort of feels pretty standard. I can tell you as a guy who's been around the stock market since 1992 and the derivatives world since 1992, I can tell you these are crazy times. And each and every day I bring it up to John, who is working with me here, and others at Market Rebellion, just how crazy things are. Give you a great example. Yesterday we were down 500 points, right, in the Dow. We rallied and we were down only 50 points at one point in time. And then, of course, at the end of the day, we slide right back down. We finished down 250 points. NASDAQ was down about 300 points. It rallied and moved around, finished the day down about 150 points. You get the idea. Just the actual movement is just extraordinary. And given the levels where we are, of course, then percentage-wise, it's a little bit of a smaller percent than it once was back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and obviously to where we are today. Now, that being said, there still are just some amazing moves going on out there. And I'm actually a little bit surprised on the volatility index, just to a degree, that it's not a little bit higher than it is. It did get over 30 the other day. It did get to those levels, but didn't get past 32, has a hard time, seems like, getting anywhere past there. And that's been sort of the theme. As a matter of fact, I look over at the NASDAQ, it was a pretty big move, down about 1.3%. So not unbelievable, actually, but, once again, just the craziness of the markets that we're in. Crude oil, that was down a little bit yesterday, down about 3% or so. Finished the day right around 106. That was a little bit of a pressure on the markets. I can tell you the Russell also down about 0.6% yesterday. I don't talk about that one nearly enough, but I should, and I will make it my quest to try to make sure that I do a little bit better job with that. But it's interesting just to see what's going on with the big three majors each and every day. And it's extraordinary. I look at the 2-year, I look at the 10-year, how they've been kind of hovering around that 3 level. Today's a little bit different. We'll get into that in just a moment. Nat gas, actually yesterday, another one that's pretty interesting, right around 5.5, down significantly. We're talking 10, 12, and 15% moves sometimes in some of these commodities. Absolutely extraordinary. Bitcoin rang it right around and underneath that 19,000 level yesterday. As I said, we're talking about that volatility index, 2870. Pretty interesting. Volume did come back a little bit yesterday, 39 million, a little over 39 million contracts trading yesterday. It was energy, obviously pulling back on the price of crude, but energy down about 2% yesterday. Then I look at consumer discretion down about 1.5% yesterday. Technology down a little over 1% yesterday. Financials down about 1% yesterday as well. You get the idea. We were getting a big push. We've had a little bit of a change. We've had some momentum going this way, and it's been all over the place, but certainly seeing some very, very interesting markets as we all know. Well, what was actually working yesterday? Some of those defense stocks in that area, Northrop Grumman, one of those names. Raytheon, I look over at something like a Lockheed Martin, having a pretty good day. Pfizer had a very sharp day yesterday. Costco, I mentioned yesterday during the take that Travelers was the only name I believe that actually was in the green at one point in time early on. We have Procter and Gamble, though. Those all names, you kind of put those into a box, but then you look over, well, what was really pulling on the market then? Walgreens Boots, that was definitely something that was a pull yesterday. GM, we're talking about some pretty decent sized stocks here. GM, those cruise ships, once again, getting pulled down. Norwegian leading the way there. DocuSign, Airbnb, Zoom, Salesforce, Caterpillar, JP Morgan. You get the idea. Some very, very big names. And of course, when you've got those big names all moving in the same direction, we're going to have markets that are going to get pulled to the downside. Starting off July, here we go. Now, we just left in the background the first 6 months, which is the worst 6 months since 1970, over 50 years ago, to go back to find a worse first half of the year. That's where we are right now. S&P down 20%, 25%, Dow down 20+%. I mean, when you look across, just some unbelievable moves. This morning, get up. We're under pressure a little bit. Nothing bad. We're looking at the Dow down about 75 points. It starts rolling and starts getting to the upside. We're up 140, 150 points, only to give it right back again and then to be down 200 points. That's the markets that we are in this first hour. And actually, if you shrink it down even into that half hour, up 150 points, down 200 points, just in a very, very short period of time. Also, you look over at the S&P, it was down about 20 points. I look over at the NASDAQ getting hit a little bit. Not terrible, but it was down 40, 50, 60 points last I looked as well. Crude started off the day pretty decent. We were up over 108. That was starting to move things along a little bit. Eased back towards 107. Nat gas getting a little bit closer to 6. I didn't get a chance to see that right before we came on, but it was moving to the upside. The 2-year and the 10-year, both back underneath 3. You would think that would be, at least in the past month or so, on those days where we see that getting back under 3, we normally have seen a little bit more buying coming back into the market. We aren't seeing that right now. We'll see if that changes. We're only in the first hour of trade. I look at volatility, as I mentioned yesterday, mentioned it today as well, looking right around 28.60, not over 30, but also remember it is Friday. We're going into an extended weekend. Got to price that out. It's not always the easiest process in the world, but that's something that actually stands out a little bit that we're at those lower levels. I'm looking at Bitcoin, still kind of hovering around that 19,000 level as well. What were some of the big flips that we saw from those upper side of things in the opening of the day to where we are now? Well, energy, it was up about 1% early on, immediately flipped around as we watched the price of crude. It was down about 0.5%. Consumer discretion gave back a little bit. I look at industrials, they were up about 0.75%, then down about 0.5%. I look at staples up about 0.5%, they moved back to flat. I look at technology down just a little bit, down about 1%. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of where we are seeing the pull and what's really shifting around within the market. Starting off the day, it looked pretty good. You look at some of those housing names. You look at Lennar, I look at DR Horton, I look at Pulte, all starting off the day strong. Generac starting the day off as well. General Motors, a little bit of a turnaround. You got those Chinese names kicking out. We did have that ETF buying in a positive way, buying those calls earlier in the week, the ASHR calls that were being bought. I'm looking at PDD, JD, and Netties, at least early on, in positive territory, along with Starbucks, along with Costco, Boeing, Home Depot, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. That was early. That was very early in the day. Things are going to change in a hurry. I look over, you want to find where the negatives are, just take a look. The story of the day is probably Micron. Micron has talked about some of the easing demand. They also talk about inflation, some of the squeeze that they're feeling, and they gave a weak forecast. It actually seemed like the people had digested it okay, at least last night, maybe even earlier today. But then we started to see the selling. And as that selling came in the semiconductors, not just Micron, but across the semiconductor universe, I'm talking about names like Lam Research and KLAC 10 Core, Applied Materials, onsemi, and NVIDIA, AMD. We talked about NVIDIA put buying. Yeah. We talked about AMD put buying at that 78 strike. Yeah. So you get the idea. Somebody out there certainly had a pretty nice look to the future because we saw that monstrous buying in NVIDIA puts. We also saw that monstrous buying in the AMD puts. Wow, just a very, very quick turnaround. And obviously this Micron news today, not helping things at all. I've got 2 unusuals, and then I'm going to tell you, I am on the halftime report today. Looks like Brian Sullivan's going to be hosting. If he has an issue with his feed, looks like we're going to flip over to somebody else. And then later on, I'll be doing the 5 o'clock show as well with Melissa Lee and the gang. Just that half-hour show on Fridays before they go to their options show. Anyway, Starwood Trust REIT is number 1. That's the one that stands out. Now, that's not a name that I see very frequently. As a matter of fact, I can't recall the last time we had that for unusual. I'm sure it's hit. I just don't recall it. Stock was trading just beneath 21 bucks, 20.91. Had a buyer of 20,000 of the August 19 puts. Somebody out there looking either for some monstrous protection. Those are going for about 50 cents. Are they buying for protection? Or are they buying because they think that this thing's got a good opportunity to slip to the downside? Either way, very, very large trade. That one stuck out for me very much so early on, along with this one, Ford. I talked about Ford puts the other day. I'm going to talk about Ford puts again today. Stock trading a little over 11. It was 11.30, 11.40, somewhere in there, that range. We had a buyer of 6,000 of the August 14 puts. Now you say, why would you buy the 14 puts? Those are deep in the money. puts. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, get educated. I always finish with that. I'm going to say it right now. Understand the derivatives markets. It does open up a lot more for us all, for you and everybody else. Doesn't matter if you go to books, doesn't matter if you go to the online, it doesn't matter if you go to our guys at Market Rebellion. You need to know a little bit more about it. Anyway, they sold the August 16 puts in size and rolled those down. So a very profitable trade, somebody expecting Ford to fall, that did. And then now that profitable trade, they're taking some money off the table, putting some money still into the trade with these 14 puts. $2.84 is what they were paying for these puts, 6,000 of them trading, looking for some leverage as they expect to see the stock move even lower. So keep an eye on that one. That should be pretty interesting as well. I'll have plenty of unusual option activity for you on the halftime report. Look forward to seeing you then. Otherwise, have a safe and wonderful 4th of July weekend. Understand what it all means as well, why we get that extra day. Always make sure that you understand about that. Folks, have a great day of trading. I'll see you later on.